It is a very good morning to you all, and welcome to the Breakfast Club right here on Asake. My name is Fungai Mawada, and I'm very proud to have this particular guest in studio today. Not only is she a creative, but she really essentially brings people together. She has been voted as 50 most creatives to look out for in Bulawayo. And for me personally, she's a businesswoman, an entrepreneur with such an acumen that we can all learn for. Help me, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming Mandipa Masuku to the studio. Good morning, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Do you feel like my description of you was all that you've done, or there's still more to Mandipa Masuku? Like, who is Mandipa?
I wasn't ready for that, but I guess it always comes in an interview. Mandipa is just someone who really enjoys experiences. And having stayed in Bulawayo, I found that, it's really difficult to, have fun that's outside of either going partying or something like that. So we've just spent most of our time creating experiences and creating a good environment for those experiences to, to make sense. So that's pretty much how we're here today.
All right, so let's just take it back a bit and tell me about your history growing up, essentially. And I know that you've stayed in Botswana, in South Africa as well, and Zimbabwe, so you're kind of like a global citizen, so to speak. So tell us a bit about your history there.
Majority of my life was spent in Botswana. So I think I went to Botswana when I was like really young, 2 months in, and I did most of my school there. I did my nursery, primary, right up until secondary. I went to Westwood. After Westwood, that's when I then moved to South Africa. I went to South Africa to do 1 year of A-levels. I wonder why, actually, I didn't just carry on there. But then I went to do 1 year of A-levels in SA, but I managed to get into university, and then I just, left and I started my university at Monash. But pretty much that's how I then ended in South Africa. Spent a good 3-4 years in South Africa in my university doing there, plus my 1 year, so total about 5 years in South Africa. Until, of course, the dreaded visa ended, and that's how I ended up moving back to my home country, Zimbabwe. But then remember, I didn't really grow up in Zim, so it was a new territory for me. So yeah, that's how I ended up coming back. I think this was now 2017 that I moved to Zim.
Okay, so what's that experience been like? Because I feel like your story is a story for a lot of Zimbabweans whose parents moved overseas to try and make a living and the likes, and then you grew up in this different culture, different environment with different languages and the likes, and then now you come back to Zim. How has that experience been for you, essentially?
I think before this we did speak about how, it's a reality check when you grow up. Most of us grow up out of Zim. But, in the back of your mind, you're always reminded that you're Zimbabwean. So with me doing my, my school in Botswana, there's this subtle, I wouldn't feel like little xenophobic textures in Botswana. Yeah, they're not as direct as South African, but then you've got these little comments where you're not a Botswana. And similar in South Africa, it's a bit more direct. But like luckily where I went to school, most of the people in the school weren't actually South African. So I guess that's how, that's a little bit. But luckily when you stay in these countries, you pick up a lot of different cultures, a lot of different things. You learn rather, not just pick up. So I think it helped, moving around helped in building my character. It helped in learning a lot about different cultures, different ways of doing things, different foods, different different events, so the importance of different events, the importance of different foods, and just to highlight now the now just ended carnival. I actually had experienced it at first as well, a Motswana coming in. And it was a whole different experience as to when you're now a Zimbabwean going to experience something else. You've got a different viewpoint from such experiences, such events. So I think that's how I then, get to pick up what I could do next.
Very interesting. So looking at how you've grown up in Botswana and then as well South Africa and the likes, do you consider yourself, like, where do you feel at home? I'm literally curious about that.
I'm still discovering. I'm still discovering where luckily I've managed to close the Botswana chapter, but till I think 2 years ago, I had been actively living in 3 countries. So, like, I had clothes, my dad's house, my mom's house, and in South Africa. So I just, like, as you know, I'm going back to SA, not, no, quite, no, in a few days' time. I'm going to be there for a while. Then I come back to my Zim home. I'll be there for a while. Usually when I come back, it's either to do my events or just to check up on my businesses that I have running here. And then Botswana is just maybe just see family. And yeah, I actively live in the 3 countries, but not as much as 2 years ago. But yeah, now it's basically just SA and Zim. So I would say safely Zim because of my passport, but like like many Zimbabweans, I resonate a lot with South Africa. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So speaking of South Africa, you did feature in the Glamour Magazine essay edition, and they said you are one of the 50 creatives to look out for in 2022. How was that feeling when you, okay, it's one thing reading the article, but for someone to actually say it, like, look out for Mandipa, how did that feel for you?
It's really cool for people to acknowledge what you're doing. I myself, as you know, I don't feel like I'm there yet because I know what I'm trying to achieve. It started off as a food market, but then my love for finding experiences. I know for a fact that yes, this is a Blowayo event, but I wanted to definitely be bigger than what it is now. So although it was very exciting, I can't wait for them to write about me in the next 2-3 years from now, because it will definitely be something
bigger and better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us about the birth of Lemongroove Brands. How did that come about?
Yeah, so my mom used to work here. She was doing events before I decided to move to Zim, or rather not decided to, before I had to move. And at the time I was like seeking things to do. I am an economist, by the way, so I did find, like I mentioned, I did find myself working in a financial advisory at first. But then I think as time went by, in Zim, you end up always having a side hustle. And I always found myself helping my mom in events. So as I would help my mom in events, I guess she then registered a company, and it only made sense to put the only other person she trusts as a co-founder of the business. So that happened until recent, like during COVID, she decided no, she doesn't want to live in Zimbabwe anymore. So she then left me with the company. So I just decided to run with it, and structure it into something that was more me, because she was doing weddings at the time, and that's not the type of events that I. There's more to life, Mom. I'm not doing tables and chairs and tablecloths now. So even now with Lemongroove, I found myself, selling most of that equipment, and the equipment we do now is mostly festival equipment. So that's like stall counters, tents, your umbrellas, your gazebos, just generally like that type of event furniture. So yeah, so I've just restructured Lemongroove from what it was to what it is now.
All right. Yeah. So for me personally, I think the biggest event that I know that comes from Lemongroove is Munch and Sip. We're going to get into that. But what other events do you have under Lemongroove Brands, essentially?
So under Lemongroove, we also do food packaging. So that's green slabs. Not so long ago, I was here doing an interview about green slabs. So we do food packaging. For now, it's just within Blawayo and Victoria Falls that we supply restaurants with the food packaging. And then we've got another event starting in October. I'm not too sure if I'm allowed to say much about it just yet, but it's a wine event. It's an event, like I said, most of the events are structured around things that I like. So I find that when I come to Zim, it's either I go partying, like heavy partying, or, I hang out with friends. So like a middleman would be, events where you can hang out, you can lounge around, like your Munch and Sip that you mentioned. It's picnicky. It's 2 different events in one, but it's picnicky. You get to, hang out We've recently had the Paint and Sip ladies. You know, it's a very wholesome event. You know, so that's the type of feel that we're going for. So similarly with the event that we're doing in October, it's gonna feel very wholesome. It's an experience. I won't say too much, but
it's got wine involved.
Wine involved. Yes, I like wine.
All right, so now moving on to what you're most famous for in Bulawayo, which is Munch and Sip. How did that come about? That brilliant idea. So I've been to two Munch and Sips, and they've been two totally different experiences for me, but guaranteed the third one I'll definitely come.
Did you get the concept though?
I did. When I initially went for the first one, it was because all my friends had gone for one before. They're like, you should come to this event. It's so amazing. You know, you get to chill, and it's in the afternoon. And that's something that's not very popular in Bulawayo.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's always about partying after hours, but ways that center, you know, where you can just chill and still vibe, but still have fun at the same time. So I went for the first experience, then the second one. The second one was more to my liking because I actually went with my family. I went with my gran, I went with my daughter. Like, so it was a whole family type of experience. And after hours, of course, on Twitter, I saw the remarks and people saying, you know, Munch and Sip after hours. It's different from during the day. I'm like, okay, she's onto something. So how was Munch and Sip born? And was that the idea for you to begin with?
No, actually. I do a lot of food markets. Well, except the food markets in Joburg, I also did one in Germany, and I experienced when you travel, people are really proud of their food. Like, it's not just, we're not eating for survival. We're eating to enjoy, to understand that the ingredients come from this farm. This farmer
the culture behind it.
Handpicked the grapes before he made wine, you know. And initially it was to cultivate that. So there are people here that are really passionate about indigenous food, but then in most cases it gets rounded off to schwala and stew, schwala and gugumakaya. But there's this, you know,
so much
there's
more.
so much more. And fortunately and unfortunately, we do have stores that really do try to cultivate that, but then at this present time, it's not really marketable. I don't know why. At this present time, it's not really marketable. So we took that the concept that we wanted to, where we wanted to create a food market that predominantly sells Zimbabwean food. We just said, let's open it out to other types of food. So we had the famous tacos that came in. We had people doing burritos. You know, so they were really, you know, Mexican food seemed to, you know, be easy to try and replicate, but not Zimbabwean food. So now we've had a selection of food from different countries or people really mimicking what other cultures cook, your pastas, your rices, and we're trying to figure out how we will then bring all those foods right back to Zimbabwean food. So it started really about how we're going to make food, for lack of a better word, sexy in Zim. That's pretty much. So it was surrounded initially around food. But then, you know, when we have a food event, you've obviously got to rope in some entertainment because you won't just come and buy food and leave. So how do we keep people there? That's how the music aspect came in. So initially we had like up and coming artists until I feel we exhausted up and coming artists in Zim, and now we've got the in people at the moment. We had artists, we featured ASAP, we featured MJ, Kyla, and you know, it really became something. It really became concerty. Some of the challenges we did have when we did that was that now the food side was now starting to lack, and the entertainment side was now, you know,
it was becoming
over.
A vibe.
It was becoming a party, and we're like, no.
Mm-hmm.
How do we control it? Do we up the food standard or do we tone down the music? Then we just, you know, we said let's put the same effort. Let's try and put the same effort. So when we're doing the food, we try and make sure it's uniform. We try and make sure the stall holders have the right food packaging. That's where we came in with the food packaging idea. we tried to like get them the right food packaging. We made sure they had counters. It just had to look appealing when it came to food, so that also when we're now growing music, because also musicians were now putting in extra effort to make sure they they come and perform on that Sunday. But then now the food stalls, they were doing what they know how to do. So now if we come up with a standard to say, okay guys, we're expecting this type of food, they shouldn't feel shut down. They should actually just maybe, we wanted them to feel like, okay, this is what we're trying to move towards. So it's been a roller coaster in that sense, in trying to make sure it stays a food market, but it also stays as a good event to attend, and a good Sunday afternoon. Then we realized, okay, at 5 p.m. people don't want to go home. Should we prolong it? Do we keep on selling food? Or do we now keep extending the entertainment end? So once again, we did both. But then luckily, I don't know, luckily and or unluckily, the entertainment side just, kept on going on. So it's like it ends at 6, but then, like you said, it's 2 different events on the same day. After 6, it becomes
a vibe. All right, so looking back to your first Munch and Sip and where it is now, how was your first Munch and Sip, especially as an entrepreneur? Because it's a lot of people who have ideas, who are like, okay, I'm going to do this and that. Like you said rightfully, that in Zimbabwe, it being an informal economy, a lot of people want to start their own things and the like. So what was that experience like for you, the first ever Munch and Sip?
Okay. So I think also I was very strict in my ways to say, okay, this has to be a food market, and this food market has to have this, and this food, sometimes it's not practical to have such firm ideas about something, because, there's also money involved. So the first one had 14 people, 14 attendees, so that I only sold 14 tickets. Out of the 14 tickets, 9 of them were my family members. So it was just so discouraging, guys. Oh my gosh. It was so discouraging, because like even of the 9, some of them were buying like tickets out of pity. And guys, the ticket was $1 at the time. And I think it was like, the rate was like 1:1. So we're accepting bonds. So it's like, right. So, there are a few people, I don't know if I should mention names, because if I forget one name.
And someone's going to be like, you didn't mention.
There was, Vawongile Skonja, who's, I think, up until last year, he was like the one person who had attended each and every one.
Oh, that's amazing.
There was Mbagisi and his wife, and Kla. There was Poseti, the DJ from Skies. Those are people that, they attended Munch and Sip, even when not even I knew what it was supposed to be. I just knew it was going to be this great event. So there were those few people that made up the 14. And after that one, we went out and we spent, at the time, I thought it was a lot of money. Because remember, I was just newly out of uni. We made banners, rookie mistake, our banners had dates, so now we can't use them again. It was just for that one event. And, after this event, I just said to myself, no, we're not doing this again. And then a friend of mine, Michelle, she was like, let's do it again. I think this is like now, almost just under a year short. Like, let's do it again. And we did it again. And this time around, we changed the venue. It was Tin Cup, and it was just a lot of people. I think we looked up at one point and it was like 200 people. Were like, whoa.
From 14.
From 14.
What a jump.
Yeah. It's like $1 times 200. It's something, So we did that, and from there on, we tried to do it every month, and it wasn't practical, because literally after you take down like a few weeks, you've got to do it again. And then, we just started to grow it and try to shape what the concept was. So, it wasn't just finding seating, because we didn't want it to be a family fun day. We really wanted people to know that, guys, this is about food and drink and celebrating that. And from that, we just kept on. Although, it's been slow growth. I think it's still slow growth, because from 2017 was that first one. Then 2018 is when we took it seriously. Then COVID happened. There was that long break where there was nothing. So I think this should be about like our 10th one-ish. So It's slow, but I think you can see the progress.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So for you, okay, you're woman one and you're entrepreneur at the same time, and here you are trying to mingle all of these cultures and experiences that you've had. What are some of the key business lessons that you've learned during this space, particularly with Munch and Sip? What have you learned?
Persistence, being persistent, that and also not trying to fit in. So I've noticed a lot of, like I said, when I got here, it was mostly about partying, and a lot of these events are surrounded around, you play music, DJ, and then it's not, they're not there for the longevity of it all. So persistence in your concept and sticking to it, although having some room to be flexible, because some of your ideas are not practical, and sometimes you don't have a person to tell you, hey, you know what, it won't work. So being practical, being persistent. Lessons I've learned, and that one, there's always an opportunity. There's someone thinking, oh my God, Zimbabwe is so bad. There's always an opportunity. There's someone who sells toothpicks. There's someone who imports onions, for example. You know what I mean? There's always an opportunity to do something. And so that's what I learned. In as much as I was discouraged at that time to carry on, I just figured, you know what? Those 14 people thought there was something great here. So maybe I just needed to fine tune it to make sense of it. So there's a piece of a pie for everyone. You just need to figure out where you fit in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then looking at Munch and Sip, of course, again, and the likes, like how is it sustainable? Particularly looking at how Zimbabwe's economy is, Wuti, prices are always on the rise. Things are always changing. One moment money is worth this much, the next thing you have to change it. Just generally operating in an environment like Zimbabwe as well. Like, what lessons have you had from that? And sponsorship, is it coming through? Because now it's like, it's Bulawayo's premier event. If someone were to mention the Pichani, they'd also mention Munch and Sip as well as Bulawayo's, baby and to go to thing. So what, yeah.
I think in terms of sponsorship, I'm either not really great about it or I'm just so picky. Because, okay, we do have sponsors. We had Liquor Supplies initially, the first sponsor. This one, we had Kuva and Booty's Pharmacy. But then we are looking for like one overall sponsor who's going to understand our concept, who's going to walk with us. Because, in as much as I may have a vision, they may have another way of interpreting our vision, we are looking for that. So pretty much this event is sponsored from majority my pocket and your pocket as well. So, from ticket sales, it might look like, I get people walk up to me and be like, oh my God, it's so full.
So much money.
So I'm $5 wonke lao. So crazy the price, it's now $10. And I'm like, guys, have you guys ever asked how much the venue is to hire? Oh, yeah. Have you guys ever asked like staff? You should see the venue after an event. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. You've got to hire people to clean. You've got to. It actually, there was even a point where I was like, guys, yes, it's making money, but is it worth it? And I said, no, I'm doing this for Bulawayo. Like, I won't lie. I really, really want to create, for the next time I get chased out of another country where my visa lapses, I want to come back to Bulawayo and think, yeah, you know what? I'm going to stay here because there's things for me to do. That's literally how I look at it.
And then what is your long-term vision for Munch and Sip?
Girl, you don't even want to know.
I really do, actually.
Munch and Sip, I am hoping to one day, I don't know, if anyone's ever been a stallholder, they know how much we talk about Zimbabwean food. So on that, and from that angle, if we can get people making Zimbabwean food sexy, that will be the ultimate goal. But yes, roping in, food from other countries, food from other cultures, but just generally, doing more with our food, right? I really want to see that happen.
Why do you think that we have that type of attitude when it comes to Zimbabwean food? Like, why don't we appreciate isichala, amacimbi? Why isn't it sexy, like what you keep on saying?
Remember, majority of us have not lived in Zim. Majority of us have experienced being Zimbabwean from while being outside. You know, I don't even know how to explain it. So majority of us, we can resonate with Itombolo. But it's Zimbabwean, but then we would have experienced
The
it
South
from South
African
African
one.
from South African
Yes.
side, or Isitshwala. We call it Ipapa because it's South African. Siswaye, yes, it's the Tswana people here, but we'd experienced it from likewise tacos. Either you've been to Mexico, you've been to Spain or Mexico, wherever you've experienced a taco for the first time, but taco is it's chala at the
Yes,
yeah, at the
with
bottom,
filling,
exactly
yes,
at the bottom of
ukoko,
the ukoko.
hey.
That's typically what a taco is, and I know that that's why they even use inhlobo. Some of them like inhlobo to do the filling for a taco, but we won't. I don't know. We just don't feel like it's hip enough for us. So we need to. There's that lack of patriotism for our food that we need to cultivate, and unfortunately we can only cultivate it by doing more food events where people can associate with the ingredients. We need to know where the ingredients come from. Like, does it mean we should go to the bush and like pick out the berries? No. You can make smoothies. You can make something a bit more modern with the ingredients. I picked up that in Zim, people want to eat the food the way it is. You either pick a fruit and you eat it. You're not thinking, let's try and make a smoothie. Let's try and make a sorbet. Let's make a blueberry cheesecake from this. Or you know what I mean? You're not thinking of how to make a byproduct from this ingredients. Chwala, I don't know. People might shoot me for this, but I've seen people put sweet corn in chwala and what aromat. Not up my alley, but you know what? They're trying to take it further.
Yes, so it's not just isichala, which is in amount.
I mean, chakalaka, for example. Chakalaka is beans, it's cabbage, it's carrots. We have all those ingredients. How come we're not going an extra step to making our own ingredients and then just, putting a stamp on it to like, oh, let's protect this ingredient, like. So that's pretty much where I want to go with it. I'm attending, not to market it, but I'm attending the DSTV Food Festival in Joburg. That is really big because that is a good flagship event for what we are trying to achieve. They've got international artists that attend, and then they've got like international chefs that attend the same event. Artists from obviously America. I think the last one I attended had Common. It's a very afternoony event, but the essence of it all is to bring people together with food. Yes, you can have the entertainment, but the food.
It's very important, that aspect. Okay, so your last Munch and Sip that you had was at the Force Carnival. How was that?
Well, I think we didn't do enough ground marketing, but Bulawayo people come through, hey, they really do. And luckily, I think I know almost every face. We've got regulars at Munch and Sip. And I know there are so many people who drove down just to attend. So we had a small number, but the word small is very relative compared to that 14 at first. This first one, I think we did about 214 people, which wasn't bad. Yeah, because the venue was quite small. We were very selective of the venue. It was a beautiful venue. So yeah, majority of the people were from Bulawayo, who obviously came to see what a destination event would be like. We are looking for a new destination to attend to, whether we go back to Victoria Falls for New Year's Day, or we go to Kariba, or we go to Binga. Binga, I think I've never been to Binga. So it's a scary territory.
Oh, you've seen the pictures, and yeah, like the beach looks
the
nice.
beach,
That would be nice.
Remember there are crocs in that beach, by the way. So like, yeah, I think we're waiting for whoever invites us to there territory, but that's what we're looking forward to doing. So we want it to be a Blawayo event, but with the option of people also experiencing this Blawayo event in another destination. So it's always going to be a Blawayo event. We'll always have, so for example, April, we did the April 24 was at was in Blawayo, and then the 30 was in Victoria Falls. So likewise in December or in August when we come back, we'll still do the Blawayo one, but see where we will take the destination one to. Yeah, because, you know, since it's about food, there's food from the, you can understand that in Blawayo we eat differently to people in Harare, we eat differently to people in Pinga. So if it's really about food, we should be able to, you know, gather different chefs, different cooks from those regions and learn more about what they serve and, you know, while also entertaining. So another challenge that I should probably mention is having grasped some information from SA or Botswana, I noticed they've got like an events license. And in this events license, once you pay for the license, it incorporates police, it incorporates having ambulance all in one. Whereas in Zim, you have to go to them individually. And each time you go to them, it's a different approach. Whether you go to the police, it's a different approach for this one. It's different. Whether you go to ambulance, it's a different charge. And each time, depending, so that you'll find we keep moving like venues, because each time it's a challenge because we've done it previously. I'll just maybe elaborate a bit more. We once did it at Place A. Place A sees that your event is a little bit, it's bigger than they thought it would be. So when you go back to Place A, they're like, this girl, she makes money. So let's give her a different price, because you know what? She definitely can afford to pay this. So when in fact we actually can't afford to pay this price. Likewise with the services, I don't want to mention which service. Likewise with the services, they'll come up with new rules each time there's an event. So it becomes a challenge, because now we have to treat each and every event like a new event.
A different one.
Yeah, so that's like the biggest challenge. So even now, I wouldn't release the dates so quick, because now it's like they'll gear each other's up to be like, okay, she's going to do it there. She hasn't come to us yet. So now you really have to work your way up to doing the events. But like I noticed in SA, they've got that event license, and it really helps with creating uniformity, because now you're able to plan and say, okay, if we're going to do a big event, let's do things the right way. Let's pay this fee. Let's do this. But if all of the money is going towards paying a fee, then there's no room for growth,
yeah.
You know. And it's really an issue within Zim, because, you know, I don't know if I'm a promoter yet, but like promoters really want to do big things, but like it's difficult when, you know, it's a game. It's a headache.
What words of advice would you give to that young lady who is at home, who's thinking of pursuing or getting into business, who has done a degree like you, but they feels like, no, not really is what I want to do and stuff like that? What words of advice would you give to upcoming entrepreneurs?
Just to take it back, for the longest time, I was a person sitting with an idea with no money, right? And I was now thinking like, let me go and ask this person for money. Maybe they'll give me a loan. Maybe they'll help me start my business. And I always say to people, it's very difficult to sponsor an idea. You should be willing to say, okay, that money you're using to go and do this, to go and do that, spend it on your own idea first. If you've got $20, start small. You know, you've still got that vision at the back of your mind. If you've got $20 and you want to open a tomato paste company, start by selling tomatoes with that $20. You'll save up enough money to, you know, start that business. So likewise, in as much as people, I keep telling you, you keep making it seem like I'm this mega business person. Maybe so, but I also feel like I'm not there yet. And even at this point, I am still using, you know, that money and reinvesting it until someone does see what we're doing and says, okay, we've seen your hard work, there you go. Let's see what you can do with this. So I think often people say, okay, how are you going to start? Fact of the matter is you need money. But I'm not, if I was in the position to help you start a business, I'm not going to put my own money before I see you put your own money into the business. So you have to reinvest in yourself first, then
others will invest in you. Mandipa, thank you so much for coming through. Thanks so much for dropping all of these gems. I hope someone at home learned something. Wish you all the best with your business, with Lemongroove Brands, with Munch and Sip. We hope to see you, Forbes 30 under 30. You never know.
2 years.
Got 2 years to go. So yeah, we wish you all the best. But thank you so much for coming to the Breakfast Club.
Thank you so much.
All right, cheers. And thank you so much for watching the Breakfast Club. Remember to catch us again, same time again, right here on Asake. Good morning.